Welcome to the League of Women Voters North Andover Candidates Forum. We are coming to you live from our new North Andover Senior Center here at 481 Sutton Street. Definitely come and visit. This is my second time here, and it's a beautiful space. It's a beautiful space. So my name is Heather McNeil. I do volunteer, nonpartisan voter service work for our community with the League of Women Voters of Andover, North Andover. We have a joint league. The League is a 104-year-old, nonpartisan, grassroots political organization for everyone, so don't be fooled by our name, which encourages informed and active participation in government. Tonight's forum is part of our voter education efforts. You can join the League or join our Facebook group by visiting our website, where you can also find information about this year's election under our voter information tab. You can also find a video of a recent event we held over in Andover called Fact Checking the News, with great tips on how to assess your news sources and how to tell fact from fiction, which I think is really important as we're heading into this very busy election season. Our forum may look a little bit different this year. I often cannot moderate this event as I am a voter in town, but since our candidates are running uncontested this year, our goal tonight is really for you to get to know them. We'll be asking questions from you, the citizens, from students in 8th grade at the middle school who are studying civics, working with their teacher, Patrick McGravy. We also have some questions from Diane Fryermuth's AP Government class at North Andover High School, which leads me to the fact that I have a co-host this year, which I'm very excited about. Welcome, Kritika.
Thank you so much for having me here today. As previously mentioned, my name is Kritika Roy, and I'll be co-hosting alongside Heather tonight. I'm a senior at North Andover High School and a part of Ms. Diane Fryermuth's AP Government class. The class has really helped me get more involved and interested in the world of politics. I will be going to Boston University this upcoming fall to pursue my undergraduate degree, and I'm really excited to be here tonight and a part of this discussion and to ask some fun yet important questions. Before we start, we're also working closely with Brian Fraser, Bill Robert, Nick Maxwell, and the volunteers at North Andover Camp who are happy to have visitors. They offer many programs for students and adults alike. Anyone can become a member of NA Camp and support the work they do here. They're always on the lookout for volunteer producers for various North Andover productions, and not only is it a great resume builder, but it is also a great opportunity for you to learn camera techniques, leadership skills, and a fun way to support your local community. You can get involved by visiting their website or emailing members@northandovercam.org. The doors are open, so stop in at any time or feel free to set up an appointment. Again, I'd like to thank everyone for being here, and we will now begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. So please stand as you are willing and able.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Thank you very much. So let's delve in. So voters will be voting for 2 members of the select board, 2 school committee members, and our town moderator. All of our candidates are here with us this evening, and I said to them earlier, we often get most of the candidates to participate in this event, so thank you very much for being here, not only for us, but for the voters at home. So we will begin by giving each of you 2 minutes to tell us a little bit about yourselves and why you're running. We will start with the school committee candidates, Kelly and Ed. So how are you both? Good.
Doing well, thank you.
Okay, good. So Kelly, why don't you start? Tell us a little bit about why you're running.
Thank you, Heather.
Mm-hmm.
So hello, my name is Kelly Cormier, and I'm running for North Andover School Committee. First, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters as well as North Andover CAM for this opportunity. So a little bit about myself. I'm a child of a career Army officer and a special needs family member advocate. And kind of having that life, I went to 8 different schools in 5 states on 2 continents before I graduated from high school. My mother once told me that she admired my ability to make wherever I lived home. And that is what my husband Sean and I did when we moved to North Andover in 2012. We made North Andover our home. getting involved in the community in all different ways, to listen, to have conversations about what mattered to the people who live here, helped us make this home. I started attending select board and school committee meetings when we first moved here to learn how the town worked and what was important to the community. My first town meeting was certainly in education. I was also an associate on the planning board as well as the inaugural chairperson of the Master Plan Implementation Committee. And that really showed me how committed residents are to make North Andover an ongoing concern for all. I was also a volunteer on the Drum and Playground Committee and was a team parent for my daughter Emily's cheerleading and basketball and t-ball and lacrosse teams. And that certainly helped me see how involved the parents are in our community. And I was also a member of the North Andover Historical Society Board of Directors, and that helped me show how deep the roots grow here in North Andover. A common thread in all of those opportunities was having meaningful conversations. Meaningful conversations drive advocacy. And the more those meaningful conversations will also matter to drive productive debate within the school committee as we need to make hard decisions that become before the committee. I look forward to being entrusted with that opportunity by the voters of North Andover. Wrapped up.
Thank you very much. Ed?
Good evening. My name's Ed Moscovitch, and I'm also running for the school committee. And I appreciate the opportunity to address the voters and give them a little bit of an idea who I am. My wife and I moved to North Andover 3 years ago. We live in the Edgewood retirement community. I have a PhD in economics from MIT. A long time ago, I was the budget director of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Governor Sargent was the governor at the time. Along the way, I was the chairman of the finance committee in a small town not far from here. And in 1990, when the business community and the superintendents started working together on what eventually became the 1993 reform law, I was, for all practical purposes, a member of the board of the Massachusetts Business Alliance for Education. We drafted the proposals that became the law, and I participated in all the meetings with the governor, the Senate president, and the Speaker of the House with us to hammer out the final agreement. Through an odd set of circumstances, this led to my being the outside evaluator of a statewide reading program in Alabama, where I watched coaches and teachers and principals improving schools. And what really struck me about this experience was, after a year or two of doing this, just the unbelievable excitement that teachers had about the new way that they were teaching and how effective it was and how they would never go back to the old way. I came back to Massachusetts, found a partner, and the two of us started a nonprofit here to do the same sort of thing. This was in 2005, and we worked over the next few years with something like 90 schools all across the state, and I had a chance to see what really good instruction looks like and also to understand what has to happen in a school for that instruction to come into place. And I'm running for the school committee because my hope that experience would be helpful in working with the administration to improve schools here.
Next, we will hear from the two candidates for Select Board, Dave Kres and incumbent Janice Phillips. Welcome to you both. Dave, let's start from you first. Tell us about yourself.
Hello, my name is Dave Kres, candidate for North Andover Select Board. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and CAM for this opportunity. Thank you, Critica. And thank you, everyone, for listening. I have never ran for or held public office, but I do have a long history in advocacy. Before law school, I worked as an EMT, and I taught special education. During law school, I had several internships and jobs where I worked with disadvantaged groups such as homeless, mental health clients, and children in need of assistance. After law school, I took my desire to help people and applied it to my business. I co-founded a real estate company that does not do listings. We only represent home buyers. In the real estate community, I've been an active local volunteer leader. I have served in over 30 committees at local, state, and national trade associations. I was on the board of directors for the Massachusetts Association of Realtors, and I'm a former president of the North Shore Association of Realtors. I've also been active in North Andover. When my kids were little, I coached youth soccer and Little League. I helped organize the blue and gold ceremony for Pack 89 Cub Scouts. In the last few years, I've been on the board of directors for the North Andover Historical Society, where I currently serve as president. I think a lot of what I've learned leading the Historical Society will apply to the Select Board. We have to preserve the past while embracing the future. Change is inevitable, and growth is necessary to fund our great schools and town services. There's always a concern about a community changing too quickly, but I think with careful planning and collaboration with other boards and committees, we can find the right balance. In talking to community members, what I've learned is folks are passionate about the following 4 areas: growth that makes sense, a revitalized downtown, affordable housing, and continuing to invest in our infrastructure. If I'm elected to Select Board, I will be a common sense voice for representing all North Andover residents. Thank you.
Janice, you want to start?
Thank you. I'm Janice Phillips, and I'm a candidate for re-election to the Select Board. 3 years ago, I committed to get to work for you, and I have. I've learned the ins and outs of what makes our town operate smoothly, we really do run on volunteers, and how to best prioritize competing needs. I've worked tirelessly to do the right thing for our community. A few of those things include directing ARPA funding to neighbors and businesses impacted by flooding, supporting the purchase of 400 Great Pond Road to protect our watershed, and the soon-to-be installation of AED devices at playing fields around town. If you've traveled anywhere near the middle school, the start of Facilities Master Plan 2 is loud and clear, and a new Kittredge School is up next. Our initiative to redesign Fire Station 1 will finally bring appropriate sleeping spaces for our female firefighters, and we will work to see additional space for our robust youth center within the next few years. These projects are an investment in our community and will make North Andover an even better place to live, work, and play. Most importantly, we will accomplish these goals in a way that is responsible and least impactful on taxpayers. This work is truly a team effort, and there is always more to do. Mother Nature seems to test us a lot, and we need to be as prepared as we can be for whatever she throws our way. When we draw people into a robust downtown, our businesses and our residents thrive. I believe we need to forge ahead with those plans. Our new Fields Master Plan calls for quality fields for our youth and all residents to enjoy. I'll implement that plan. We are an incredibly diverse community with varied interests and skills. We need our boards and committees to reflect that. It's an honor to represent you and to work toward our shared goals. When we build an inclusive community, work together, and work hard, anything is possible. I humbly ask for your vote on March 26th.
Thank you to both our candidates. Finally, let's hear from our current town moderator, Mark DiSalvo.
Thank you very much. First of all, I pray that this community appreciates and understands that we are blessed to have 4 individuals sitting to my right who have chosen to volunteer and help run the community. They will have responsibilities as part of the executive team of our town, the full operations of our school department and our municipal department. I have a simpler responsibility. My responsibility as moderator is to conduct town meeting and have the obligation of running a fair, open, and efficient town meeting. That is the legislative function of our community. We heard Janice a few minutes ago do a litany of projects, including this fine facility, that have all come through town meeting. These folks are running for office, but you in the audience have, the viewing and present audience, have the ability to be able to influence your community, and you don't have to run for office. You literally only have to come to town meeting, and at that town meeting you will have the responsibility of making your very best judgments on behalf of the community for the 30+ thousand people who are your neighbors. I invite you to come and appreciate the extraordinary democratic principles of this open town meeting form of government we have. Some may disagree with the judgments that town meeting might make, but all the power is in the room at town meeting. I invite you to be part of it. It's not particularly scary. It's actually wonderfully affirming to participate. I did hear Kelly earlier mentioned her first experience in North Andover Town Meeting, and I'd love to hear what it was that made that a little trepidation. But I hope to make it as comfortable a process as possible and to assure that the community makes the most well-informed judgments it can.
Thank you so much, Mark. We will now break into a quick message from Dawn Warren, our town clerk, regarding our local election on March 26th.
My name is Dawn Warren, and I'm the town clerk in North Andover. The annual town election 26th. The deadline to register to vote for the annual town election is Saturday, March 16th, 2024. Residents may register online at the Massachusetts Secretary's website with a Massachusetts driver's license or ID number. You may also register by mail or in person at the Registry of Motor Vehicles. The last day and hour residents can register to vote in person is on Saturday, March 16th, 2024, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the North Andover Police Headquarters, located at 1475 Osgood Street in North Andover. The deadline to apply for a vote-by-mail ballot is 5 p.m. on Tuesday, March 19th. All ballots must be returned to the town clerk's office no later than 8 p.m. on Election Day. Ballots may be returned to the drop boxes located at Town Hall as well. Accessible vote-by-mail ballots are available for certain voters. If you are blind, have a vision impairment, have a mobility or dexterity disability, or have another disability that makes it difficult for you to mark a paper ballot, you can request an accessible vote-by-mail ballot. Please contact the town clerk for further information. All precincts vote at North Andover High School, located at 430 Osgood Street. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. on Election Day.
Welcome back. And so let's move on with some questions for our select board candidates. So Janice, you're going to begin, and then after each candidate chimes in, there'll be an opportunity for an open discussion. So if any of the candidates want to add to that topic and you have something you want to add, please feel free, okay? So our first question is about housing. So housing is one of the top concerns for many residents. We have a housing shortage. Home prices and rents are pretty high. People need flexible and affordable options, and homelessness is increasing, even in our community, which impacts residents as well as school students. Plus, there are also concerns about increasing the housing capacity in town and the impact that will have on town resources. So, what are your thoughts on housing in North Andover, and how do you see your role as the select board in addressing some of those issues?
Good question. Housing is most certainly one of the most complex issues that we face, and it's a far bigger issue than right here in North Andover. Across the state, we are 200,000 housing units shy of what would be a reasonable number of units. So that being said, there's a lot of work to do. And I supported the inclusionary zoning bylaw, which ultimately passed at town meeting. That requires that for every 7 units of housing that are built in a multi-unit, 1 needs to be affordable. That is just one small way that here in North Andover we can make a difference. In North Andover currently, there's no new housing growth on the horizon. A few weeks ago, my colleague Rosemary said it best. She was talking about how people want housing options, a variety of housing options, and right now we just don't have any. We need to be mindful of that moving forward and make decisions that are beneficial to our community and to all of our residents.
Dave?
Thank you. First off, on the homeless aspect of the question, that in any community, any children homeless is unacceptable. North Andover, no exception to that. So for that, I would be willing. I'd be looking to work with other community resources groups that would specialize in that, and to make sure that that children and families are homeless for as little possible time as possible. As far as housing goes, as I mentioned, I'm my business is as a real estate agent. I'm an exclusive buyer agent, and it is a major problem. As Janice mentioned, not just throughout, not just with North Andover, but throughout the community. As a select board member, I'd work with the planning board, other boards, committees to try and create opportunities for smart growth and any type of opportunity to expand the housing market, because it is a huge struggle for families, young professionals, and folks looking to downsize and stay in North Andover.
Absolutely. Does anyone else have anything they want to add to this topic?
If I might, town meeting will be addressing a couple of housing issues in May at town meeting. Perhaps if you're familiar with the warrant articles, you might share with us what they might be.
I actually don't know at this time, so what?
The MBTA, well, specifically, let's talk about the MBTA obligation relative to housing.
Okay, so coming up at town meeting, we will be reviewing the MBTA communities law. So it's a directive handed down at the state level where we must zone for a certain amount of housing to be able to be built in our community. Now, that being said, we worked really carefully with the planning board to come up with 2 areas that we will hopefully pass through so that we can be in compliance, that will be able to be developed at some point in the future. At this point in time, they are not locations that it seems like will be a short-term thing that will happen, but many years down the road, maybe we would see development in these areas. But the key part of this is that we are in compliance with the state mandate, because if we are not in compliance with the state mandate, we will be ineligible for all kinds of funding, grant funding especially, which is a huge part of how we get things accomplished in our community. So it is my hope that people will really take the time to get educated about what the MBTA communities is, because it is not a housing mandate, it is a zoning bylaw, and make the decision that is best for our community. So.
Great. Anyone else? We good? Okay. So we're going to move on to businesses and diversity. This was a very common question among middle schoolers, high schoolers, and a common conversation that I've been involved in, at least with my neighbors over the years. So diversifying businesses and restaurants and different aspects of the business community in our town, how can we diversify it to reflect the growing diversity we have in our town and the varied needs and interests of our residents? What are your thoughts on that topic, Dave? We can start with you first.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for the question. For diversifying business opportunities, what I think would be most advantageous for North Andover is to focus on expanding and revitalizing downtown. I've been doing a lot of outreach to North Andover residents as part of my campaign, and one of the things I hear again and again and again is, that what North Andover residents want is an expanded and revitalized downtown, an area that folks, want to come to, that's walkable. More restaurants and shops, and certainly areas that shop what people would want. A lot of people might want to go to shops and restaurants that represent what their cultures and their what they're used to. So definitely, again, work with planning board, other groups and opportunities, maybe the Merchants Association and like groups to create opportunities for businesses to want to come to North Andover and succeed here and stay here if they're already here.
Great. Janice, do you have anything to add?
Oh, absolutely. Diverse and successful businesses are one very important piece of a thriving community. And I think sometimes people forget that our businesses are hosted in private buildings and on private property. So we don't get to actually decide what comes to our community. If we could, there would be a Trader Joe's.
That was mentioned by some students on
But that being said, there are things that we can do to bring diverse businesses to town, including primarily providing support that makes it as easy as can be for them to come here. I'm really proud to say that our employees at Town Hall are very good at supporting businesses through this process, and we're so grateful for that from them. During this past year, we made great strides. The hard work of our Economic Development Director, Andrew Shapiro, it shined through as we launched an entire website with all of the resources that businesses need in order to get started. By making the process really transparent and providing support along the way, I am confident that we'll be able to bring businesses in. And more importantly, once we have them here, we want them to stay. And so continuing that support is critical. One example of that is that we went out of our way to do what we could to support our businesses that were impacted by flooding this summer. I think every single business would tell you that, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm also really excited to hear that Jamie's will be back soon. And in addition, we're so lucky to have the North Andover Merchants Association because they help businesses integrate into the community and succeed once they're here. So sort of a chicken and egg thing. We need businesses that people want in order to bring people in, but we need enough people in the right places to bring the right businesses into town. So I think we're on the right track, and we have had some great businesses open over the last couple of years, even through COVID. So I'm glad that they've chosen to make their home in North Andover, and I'm hopeful that we can get a few more.
Gotcha. Anyone have anything else to add? Want to chime in? No? Good? Okay. All right, so one last question. The town manager has stated that we're headed for some more challenging fiscal times as we, progress through the coming years. So can you just maybe list in a sort of a quick way, I know this is a larger discussion, but what are some of your top budget priorities, and I know we're right in the midst of budget season right now, and maybe what are some of your guiding principles as you would go into budget discussions? Janice, you can go first.
We're so fortunate that we have great department heads who can sit with our town manager and prioritize really well what the needs of our community are. Over the last 4 years, we focused entirely on the school budget and grown it, more than $10 million. And I'm glad that as a community, we understand that that needs to be a priority. As things will get more challenging, but I believe that with a cautious approach, we can hunker down and come through it stronger on the other side. Mm-hmm. Things that I think we need to really prioritize are our essential services, police, fire, and DPW. Our DPW does amazing work with very few resources. We understand the value in proactively maintaining our buildings, and I think we need to make sure we continue on that path so that we can make the most of the lifespan of our buildings. So I'm also really excited that our town manager and superintendent have found a more efficient way to ensure we're on top of the capital projects that will increase the longevity of our buildings. So I think during this difficult time, sort of making sure we take care of what we have it is critical. So.
Fabulous. Dave?
Thank you. I would say, schools, making sure that we have the funding to implement our master facilities plan too.
You got it.
Right. Thank you. Fire, police, emergency services, allowing and having DPW having the funds to continue to keep our roads clean and safe. And then third is continuing to invest in our infrastructure. Sidewalks, improving intersections, utilities pay dividends for generations to come.
Fabulous. Sidewalks did come up as a
Great.
concern as well. Some of the questions. Does anyone have anything else they want to add about budget directives? Okay. All right. Well, thank you to our select board candidates.
Okay, so now let's continue by hearing from the school committee candidates. Kelly, I'll ask you the first question, and Ed, you can respond to it after. Okay, the first question. A student at the middle school reported having only 22-minute break during the day. What are your thoughts on the downtime during the school day or on the overall schedules of the school?
I mean, there's certainly research that shows that, structured breaks really positively impact a student's experience.
Ed, do you want to go, and then we can go back to Kelly?
So when I read this question on your list, I thought back what it was like when I was in elementary school. We had morning recess, we had afternoon recess, And we walked home for lunch. So it was way more than 22 minutes, and I should think it would be really difficult to have so little time available. I guess the question is, how do you organize the school day, and what would you have to give up? One of the things that I think is also important is are the students sort of sitting there listening to the teacher, or are they engaging with each other during the day? To the extent that they're talking to each other informally, you probably wouldn't need quite as much outside time, but children being, as I like to think, essentially like puppies, they need to be outside and run. And so that doesn't seem like quite enough time.
Thank you, Ed, for filling in there. But absolutely right. It's the same as what Ed is saying. It's really around having, the research shows it's those structured breaks that's really important during the day, but it's that balance between what do you give up. There's only so much time during the school day. But taking a look at that and seeing, what's needed for the students to get through, because those breaks, research shows those breaks matter in terms of what, the education value at the end of the day.
Does anyone have anything to add? All right, I'll move on to our second question then. So in the fall of 2024, there will be a Massachusetts ballot question that could ban the requirement of passing MCAS to graduate high school. Yes or no, or you need to think about it. Will you support or reject this potential change? Ed, we can start with you again.
So actually over the last year, I've been working with state legislators about a possible compromise. First of all, I think we test much too much. Many, many, many too many hours of testing, and teaching to the test is actually bad instruction. So in that sense, I really sympathize with the union. I think they put their finger on something, that we test too much, and in the way we report the data, by basically only reporting average scores and not following individual students, basically the test scores in any community reflect its demographics more than teaching. So we're testing a lot in ways that don't really tell us much. The compromise that I've been presenting is I don't think we actually need to test each student every year. And I think that in doing so, this sort of implies that the state thinks it's appropriate for the state to sort of help the districts observe every teacher. And I sympathize with the union's sense that this is really kind of insulting. I've actually done some work and prepared a whole different way of reporting it, which would be testing, first of all, kindergarten intake, then 4th grade, then 8th grade, and 10th grade, and then watching whole cohorts of students, like how did this roughly 200 students in North Andover who are in the same, they were in North Andover in 4th grade and in 8th grade. If we look at how those students move, that's really all the state needs to do. And that seems to me a good way of saying to the union, yes, you're right, we test too much, here's how we're going to test less. People tend to forget this, but I was in the room when we did this. The original law required that we would test in 4th, 8th, and 10th grades. The intermediate grades are No Child Left Behind. That's a federal requirement. And I've looked into this, and the Biden administration is has indicated that it's open to flexibility. So I would love to see the state go to the feds and say, look, we have a more powerful way of looking at the data. We can test less and learn more. Mm-hmm. The hard part, it seems to me, is the graduation requirement. I haven't talked to a lot of teachers. I have a friend in the union I've talked to, and what he tells me is that teachers feel that because they need to get every child through, it's the graduation requirement that they feel is most onerous. On the other hand, when I talk to my friends in the business community and I say, why are you so opposed to this? They say, well, our businesses, our members are telling us that they're having trouble getting well-trained people, young people, to take high-tech jobs. And so I find it very hard to say to them, well, we don't really care about that. So I'm personally torn. I'd like to keep the graduation requirement. I'd like to test a lot more. And I'm hopeful that I know that there are legislators who are in position of leadership who are thinking about a kind of deal to make with the union, and that's what I hope happens.
Kelly, what do you have to say?
To add a few things that, I mean, I'd obviously covered most of it there, right? But for me, it's going back to why is the MCAS there, right? It's really around helping teachers, parents, and students know where students are excelling and where they need help. So it's, why are we doing it? And looking and going, is that working? So, is it giving us something that's actionable that we can move forward with and change? So I think that's the key component as to whether to support it or not. We need to look at that. In terms of the amount of testing, so it's the same approach. Why are we doing all these tests? Kind of take it back to basics. If we're saying we have too many layers of testing that go on during the course of the year, what are we trying to drive? What behaviors do we want? And are we seeing those results? Can we get it from the data that we have? Not just point in time, but some of the, as Ed has said before, the longitudinal data. Are we getting the right types of data from these tests to drive the changes that we want?
Thank you. Any further thoughts from anyone?
I'd love to follow up on this. I was a school committee member 100 years ago in this community before there was this testing mania. And I'm wondering, and I don't want to get into a discussion that only a couple of economists can do and get really, really deep, but notwithstanding that, what would you do with the extra time that would be set aside if we in fact tested less?
Complicated question. I think it's the other way around. I mean, the testing is taking away from the time that we need, and this is a long discussion. I mean, if
we have a minute and a half. So.
I think it's not so much it's partially the time. One of the things that people don't understand is that the people who proctor exams are the people the staff members who otherwise would be giving extra help to the students who fall behind.
Individualized basis?
Yes, that's who do you think is sitting there?
Folks who need it.
Yeah. So one of the little known costs of this is it really cuts back in the amount of extra help that's given. I think this whole other subject is if you need to be teaching in smaller groups so that you're meeting individual needs, and it's not so much the time, it's what is the teacher thinking about? Is she thinking about what the students need to learn, or is she thinking about skills like what's the most effective way to write a paragraph for a test, which is actually not productive?
All right, thank you. Moving on to our final question for the school committee. As we know, vaping is a big problem at both the middle school and the high school. And so I just wanted to ask, what does the school committee think about doing to deal with this issue that kind of impacts the students' health, but as well as the use of restrooms?
So I can talk about vaping. Obviously, it is a problem. It's not just a problem in North Andover. It's a national problem. They are starting to see the numbers starting to come down in terms of teenage vaping usage, but it's a problem. As the CDC looks at it, it's really, they're saying using some of the long-standing practices that were used to, the proven practices around tobacco prevention, doing the same things for vaping. Because it's the e-cigarettes and vaping. They believe that those same processes will work. So I think it's looking at things like price increases, comprehensive smoke-free policies, campaigns, healthcare interventions. Some of those things are things that we can do within our town. Whether it's a school committee and the select board working together. Not all of those things, but if these are issues, those are some things that we can help to implement. The other big part is parent participation in education. And I don't know, for those of you that don't know, that there is a seminar next week that the North Andover Parent Resource Network is doing around vaping and education. That's March 20th. As the stepmother of 2 teenagers, I'm going to that because I want to educate myself. And I think it's definitely the parent involvement is a big part of this.
Ed, do you have anything to say about this?
It's not something I've studied. As I think about it, I'm wondering, why are the students doing this? And is there something about the way that the school day runs that gives rise to this? I'm thinking about something I learned in visiting all those classrooms, which is when we started addressing students at each at their own level, and they're talking to each other more, they're talking to the teacher more, they get emotional support from each other, they're not bored. And I'm wondering whether, not all of it, but whether making sure that they find schools to be engaging and productive and happy places, and they're not sitting there bored or frustrated, could eliminate some of the need to do that.
All right. Does anyone have anything else to add? Okay.
I just want to give credit to our school administrators. This is such a hard issue, and the bathroom issue complicates things. And when I think about this, I think they cannot win, and I really feel for them if they do nothing. That is a huge problem. And then the action that they have taken of making it more challenging for students is also something that people are not happy with. So I just want to give them a little bit of a shout out and say thank you for all their efforts.
I'll add quickly to that. I've got a 6th and 7th grader, and I hear nightmare stories about the boys' bathrooms at the middle school. So again, kudos to the school administrators, teachers, admin over there for dealing with, with adolescents in confined spaces.
So thank you for the school committee candidates for answering my questions. Let's move on to Mark. You're running for town moderator again. I have a few questions for you. So the first question is, are moderators around the state, or are you personally thinking about any new innovations that could make the town meetings more fair, efficient, and that could increase the voter turnout?
Thank you for using my trope about fair
course,
and efficient,
yeah.
number one. Respectfully, I think you're looking at about the most comprehensively innovative moderator in the Commonwealth. Mm-hmm. We created lots of initiatives that are being copied by moderators around the Commonwealth. I had the privilege of creating the protocol about which almost all COVID period al fresco kind of meetings that we enjoyed in 2020 and 2021. And that was picked up by folks. I'm going to reject the premise of some of your question, however, and that's the question about increasing attendance. Attendance is not the most important piece of it. Participation is the most important piece. Having a group of people who choose to attend town meeting, who wish to contribute to the judgments that are made in the community, and that they be as well informed as possible, and that the meeting itself is as welcoming and comforting as possible to allow an expression of opinion. And all of us have been in an occasional town meeting where you are certain what's going to happen, and one person gets up and totally changes the environment because of a question or the response of a specific opinion. That is the beauty of town meeting that would be so sorely missed. So yes, there are new ways that we will be investigating. Among them will be the possibility of virtual attendance at town meeting. That is not statutorily allowed right now. I did succeed in 2020 in allowing representative town meetings to go 100% virtual, or now on a hybrid basis. But that is an impossibility for open town meeting, because at least in a representative town meeting, you can train on the technology, the uses of what's necessary for people to participate and deliberate. And deliberate is another really, really, really vital word there. We come together to deliberate, to make the most appropriate judgments for our community and the generations who will be affected by those judgments.
Okay. Does anyone have anything to add, since you'll all be active participating members in the town meeting that's upcoming?
Turnabout is fair play. It's okay.
No? Okay. So my second question... Oh, okay, yeah. My second question for you, Mark, is what are some articles we may be considering at the town meeting this year?
So the moderator does not have responsibility for the articles that come to town meeting. That's a really interesting thing, that the partition of duties that most people don't understand. The select board actually has the obligation of calling town meeting and inviting people to express their opinion by representing what are called warrant articles. That period for those warrant articles, I think, has expired just earlier this week. So I don't have privy to what might come in, except to say that we deal with generally three kinds of issues. Number one, we have a budget. That's the most important policy document that our community has. We're going to spend between our capital budget and our regular budget somewhere in excess of $130 million as a community. And all too often, we pass that budget in about 7 minutes. It is a really, really important document that the Finance Committee, which I have the privilege of appointing, truly drills down on and makes sure that it represents the desires and the needs of the community at large. So that's number one. Number two is zoning. Mindlessly numbing sometimes, but notwithstanding really, really important. We were talking about the housing issue a little bit earlier. Zoning really does control the kind and mix and frequency of ability to build of housing in our community, among other business-oriented zoning interests. And the third are what called citizen petitions, that any group of 10 voters, only 10 voters, can put literally anything in front of the town meeting. And sometimes we get some rather entertaining citizen petitions. Other times we get both entertaining and truly expressive, really thoughtful citizen petitions. And I'm looking forward to learning what might be in front of us for this town meeting.
Wow, that's really exciting. Any further thoughts from anyone? I know he mentioned the select board, so do you guys have anything to say?
Looking forward to town meeting.
Okay.
And reviewing all the
topics?
articles between now and then.
Yeah, are there any article topics you can tell us about at this point?
So
Like,
we really haven't delved
Okay.
into that at all. We just got a very brief listing of
Got you, okay.
We will,
And I-
though.
and I
Stay
know-
tuned, watch our meetings, you'll see.
Fabulous. And I know, Mark, are you going to do the on the warrant
Yes,
show
of course.
again, where you go over that?
I'm delighted to partner with our friends at NACAM, where we'll sit together. I bring some of the community leaders and the board leaders to a meeting quite like this, a tableau, and we talk about what's going to be in front of the community. We do that a few weeks prior to town meeting. In addition to daily, the town administration gets out an article of the day with an English explanation about what's being discussed, and that's really wonderful. And we've tried to brand town meeting as well as an inviting opportunity, and we try to do that both visually and we try to do it in practice, how we invite people to the meeting, how they're treated, and that all are welcome.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to my final question
Sure.
for you. Students wanted to know how they can participate at these town meetings. They want to know if middle schoolers or high schoolers, can they attend? And if they can, what are the ways they can participate?
Absolutely. Folks who are not registered voters under the law are actually called strangers, whether they live in the community or are not even citizens or not old enough to register to vote. We had a wonderfully powerful experience just last year where a group of middle schoolers put a citizen's petition in front of the community to honor a citizen, William Sims, and it was to repair something about William Sims being rejected by town meeting way, way back in 1788, when it was his vote, his single vote in Constitutional Convention that approved the United States Constitution in Massachusetts. And when he came back home, he was vilified, so much so that he literally was run out of town. And our town meeting just a year ago repaired that sin. was really proud of those kids. They had the opportunity to speak. Not all moderators allow non-citizens and non-registered voters to speak, but as long as I'm moderator, I'll allow any interested party.
Thank you. Any other ideas, anything else you want to add in?
Just to keep it coming, and I truly look forward to the skills and initiatives that these folks to my right will provide, and all of us as citizens. There's really a very, very important title out there. Citizen is the most important title, more than select board member, more than school committee member, more than moderator. Citizen, come and enjoy the fruit of your democracy.
Well, thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. So now we just have a few questions to which you can all respond if you have something to say on the topic. I'll ask and anyone can chime in to begin. So this year, as we talked about, there are no contested races. Usually this is our year when we have a lot of candidates because we have, three different boards that are electing someone. So do you have any thoughts on why that is at this time?
I don't have any thoughts, but I was surprised. I was expecting, certainly with what, the discussions that were before the school committee and, kind of leaning in, just talking with other parents and people in the community, I was surprised that there wasn't additional. I don't have the answer why, but.
You'll be surprised that I have something to say. So I've had this conversation repeatedly over the last few weeks, and one thing that stands out to me is that as a select board, we actually all work together really well for the benefit of all the residents in town. We don't necessarily always agree, and certainly there are residents who don't agree with us, but one thing that is absolutely clear is that we are all passionate about working for our community, and at the local level, that's the most critical piece of the puzzle. So I personally think it's a great testament to our work, and I'm appreciative of the efforts of my colleagues. Running for local office is really hard. It's a big commitment, and I feel like working to diversify our boards and committees that serve the town in other capacities will hopefully, adding new faces will hopefully plant the seed in some of those people for future runs for office. So.
If I might.
Sure.
I'm disappointed and unsurprised at the same time. I'm disappointed because having a vital community conversation really affords an opportunity for people to understand the importance of the jobs that all of us are attempting to do to the best of our ability. It would be wonderful to have that conversation. I'm delighted not to have to campaign and do all of those things that are necessary, but to have a conversation matters, right, Kelly? And that would have been productive for all. But I'm unsurprised because it's really trying job in this environment to have people carping at you about every judgment is not a welcoming circumstance when you sit on a board like the folks that I have, or when you have the privilege of standing in a podium in front of several hundred or 3,000 people at town meeting. So the carping is something that you have to have a little bit of a thick skin about, but it's a burden, there's no question. And if there is a way of keeping some of those temperatures down, I think that you would have found more people who would express an interest in running for office. And I hope that metric somehow changes.
One more thing to
Oh, go ahead.
Please.
Sure.
Why there wasn't, there's no no contested races for this election. I think it's important to keep in mind too that there's so many other members of the community that participate in other ways. There are so many boards. I think Janice, you alluded to this, that whether the select board appoints or the town manager or the town moderator, where there are so many volunteers. They're not elected positions, but they're so vital for what happens in the community, and there are a tremendous amount of participation that happens there. And so the people are stepping up in those ways. Also, just even non-town events, whether it's coaching sports or scouts, like all of those matter.
Absolutely.
No, just as much. Those are just as important, and there's different ways for people to contribute. So I think that's one way that North Andover is very rich, and those things are very active.
And other non-government,
Yeah.
Groups such as the Historical Society, the North Andover Improvement Society, the Garden
This is
Club,
so
the North
active.
Andover
Yeah.
Merchants Association. There's so many tremendous volunteers and in groups that are supporting our wonderful community.
I'll guarantee that each of you will regret the judgment to run for office at some moment in time, but you will also relish those consequential moments when you get to truly contribute and know, even though other people might not understand it, you will appreciate how important your participation, your judgment, and the opinion that you express truly, truly matters. So thank you for stepping up.
One thought that occurs to me is that there's much more coverage of national politics and state politics than local politics. And it's getting worse because there are fewer and fewer local newspapers. And so people think that federal government matters more, when if you actually think about what is the most frustrating thing you could be, it would be a member of the House of Representatives, which basically, is totally deadlocked. And so I think people I think that with the federal government deadlocked as it is, state and local government are really more important. And I'm really pleased that I live in a state and in a town where government is basically healthy, where people behave, they don't always agree with each other, but they respect and like each other. This isn't well known, but I've had a chance over many, many years to work with the state legislature, and I'm just amazed at how, for all the criticism it gets, it's a place where Democrats and Republicans like each other, work with each other on the basis of, of issues. And my impression, I haven't been here long, is that that's true in North Andover as well.
Okay, so lots of opportunities to volunteer and serve our community, that's for sure. And we're looking for some positive, constructive conversations, right? Which are also important. Good. So I think we can wrap it up.
All right, then we are at our closing words. If anyone has anything new to add that we haven't talked about, or something you want to say to people as they head to polls, you guys have 1 minute each. We can start with Mark.
I'll invite you to come to town meeting on May 14th at 6:30 p.m. at the high school, and also come and vote. Use it as an opportunity to express your opinion and your interest in our community, and you get to meet some neighbors as well, so it's a good thing. Thank you.
Janice, do you want to go next?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity tonight, North Andover CAM and League of Women Voters, and I'm especially excited about your participation, Kritika. So take notice, everybody, of this actively engaged young generation. So it's been an honor to work for you, and during this last minute, I want to encourage you all again to get involved. Visit the North Andover website at www.northandoverma.gov, or stop by Town Hall to apply to serve on one of the many boards and committees. We actively seek new voices and representation, and we would love to hear from you. Other than that, please cast your ballot on March 26th, and I certainly hope that I can earn your vote.
Thank you so much for that shout out. Dave, do you want to go next?
Thank you again for hosting and for your participation. I want to highlight that I love North Andover. I think it's doing a great job, and there's no other place in the world that I would rather live. I believe that I have the experience and skill set to positively contribute to the Select Board. I have a long history of advocacy and community leadership. As a candidate, I've been doing a lot of outreach to North Andover residents to hear their experiences and discuss their thoughts and advice. As a Select Board member, I will take a reasoned approach to make decisions that are best for North Andover and all of our futures. I am hoping to earn your vote on Tuesday, March 6th. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ed, do you want to say something?
I wanted to comment on Two of the things I learned in all the time I spent visiting schools, which is that when teachers dramatically increase their expectations of student performance, and when the teachers have the tools to help the students reach those levels, everybody is just enormously happier. It's actually a joyous thing to see a really high-performing school. Disruptive classroom behavior all but disappears, not necessarily during lunch hour, but in class when they're engaging with each other. Students talking to each other, doing exercises, writing sentences, they get emotional support from that. And when teachers are talking to their students in small groups, the teachers are better able to work with their students. I remember once I was in a school that we were working with in Malden. It was June, and somebody said to me, there's going to be an awful lot of unhappy kids pretty soon. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, well, it's almost the end of school. And that just really struck me. Mm-hmm. Imagine that kids are going to be unhappy in June and really excited in September. That's what good schools are possible, can happen. And I also remember this one teacher that we actually interviewed, and she kind of got tears in her eyes, and she said, and she was thinking of retiring, and she said, now I'm having so much fun, I'm going to stay another year.
Fabulous.
Well, moving on to Kelly.
Thank you. So first, thank you again to League of Women Voters and North Andover CAM for the opportunity. As we think of the coming years, there's three overarching themes or charges for the members of the school committee. Defining clear and measurable goals for the superintendent, driving advocacy for the school community that's trackable and measurable, as well as maintaining and building the confidence of other town officials and boards. All of these will be driven by having conversation that matters. I've spent 6 years of my 30-year management consulting career in the education space. I worked with K through 12 systems across the country implementing math and reading remediation programs, as well as working in the higher education space, helping them to prepare them for accreditation, as well as enabling online class experiences and student systems integration. And these goals, no surprise, they were also accomplished by advocating and having the conversations that matter. So please consider voting for me, Kelly Cormier, on March 26th for school committee. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank all the candidates for being here tonight. We all encourage you to vote in our local election on March 26th at North Andover High School and to attend the town meeting on Tuesday, May 14th at 6:30 p.m. After that, there are 2 other elections this year, a September 3rd state primary and a November 5th presidential election. Visit the League of Women Voters website seen at the bottom of your screen, as well as the town clerk's website for more information. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, and thank you all for participating in tonight's discussion. Thank you to my co-host. I was excited to have you, Kritika, from the North Andover High School, and thank you all for joining us this evening and for watching from home. Please stay tuned now for a message from one of North Andover CAM's sponsors. Of course, we hope to see you at the polls this year. Thank you.
Welcome to Don Sign Tech in beautiful North Andover. We are a service-focused sign company. We educate our clients on the process, the materials, the colors, the shapes, all the things that are important in how your sign looks. It's very flattering to see our work. It makes you feel very proud, that you can look around town and know that you've had that kind of an impact and that there are that many people coming to you and looking to you for help. This community looks out for each other. They help each other. And I'm very proud to be part of that because I feel that my business reflects the community. It's about the quality. It's about the attentiveness. It's about the care that people have for one another.